Howdy y'all, it's Jordan Smith. So I'm still on my spec home builder kick, but in this case, here's a spec home that are doing some of the details right. And they're selling for the same price as the previous video that was cutting all kinds of corners. So just a couple of things to look for when you're looking at a spec home. On the windows, the window waterproofing detail, once it's wrapped and cladded, it's really hard to see whether the waterproofing was done right. But a telltale sign that they probably took care of the details is that flashing right up there. That's that silver piece of metal. And what that does is that runs back to the WRB behind the cladding, and then it moves out and it goes over the window. I would like to see that come out a little bit further to kick the water further out, but at least it's letting any water that gets back behind that cladding come out over that trim and over the window, because remember, the window is fastened all the way back to your sheathing. That's right, boys and girls, I said sheathing. This house, even though it's clad in this same stuff that the other house was, on the inside of the wall where you'll never see once you've bought the house, they've got the whole thing clad in OSB. Here on the inside of the house, you can see the OSB sheathing is around the entire house. This gives you your structural stability against racking loads or wind loads or shear loads, whatever you want to call it. It keeps the wall from wanting to rack and tilt. It gives you a much stiffer structure than just the fiber cement board outside supposedly holding the whole thing together. So love this detail that they're using, not the T-ply, you know, that cardboard stuff that you see. It's white with green letters. It's called thermoply. That is an engineered product that will give you the structural rigidity in a lot of areas. It's fine if you have a house like that. It's going to be okay. It gives you your WRB, it gives you some air infiltration protection, and it gives you your structural rigidity too. However, I like this system better. Even with the cheap woven house wrap that I'm not a big fan of, OSB with this house wrap is much better than just this house wrap and no OSB or just T-ply, in my opinion. They're also putting cross bracing in. These cross braces, probably on the engineering design, says make sure that these are glued. So they've actually labeled it glue, and you see that it's been nailed, and then I can feel the glue back behind there. And the waterproofing details are good around the windows as well. They've wrapped this WRB inside the wall cavity, right? So they've pulled that from the outside all the way into the inside, and then they've got a pan. Now, it's not the same pan that I would build. It's not a metal pan. It doesn't have a back dam on it. But it's a pan. If any water gets through this window, which it will, all windows leak. There's two types of windows, as Joe Stebrick says. Windows that leak and windows that will. So this window, when it leaks, is going to come down, hit this pan, and then the water will be able to escape. I would prefer to see this windowsill be tilted at a 5-degree angle to force that water out. And I'd also prefer to see a back dam to make sure water can't get back in. But as a minimum step, this is a great product. It goes out to the outside, and we'll show you on the outside how they're taping this to make sure that water that does get in is able to get out. Out here on the exterior window waterproofing detail, they're using a asphaltic based tape again, but you see this one here, it's been well applied. I mean, it's not going to be peeling up off of this edge. So they not only applied the product, they also rolled it or pressed it on to make sure that these tapes are what's called a pressure sensitive adhesive or pressure applied adhesive. So you've got to press it on in order for that adhesive to wet into the substrate and give you a good bond. So this has all been pressed on all the way around, and then here at the bottom, where a lot of people will take this tape and they'll tape it across the bottom, what that does is when this window leaks, it'll leak down there. Now we've got a pan underneath it, so that's good. It won't rot right away, but if we tape it, that moisture will just sit there, and the moisture will eventually eat its way through any pan that you have down there. So you want to be able to let this moisture drain out to the exterior, not to the interior. So this flashing covers and protects your framing. Any water that gets down there is able to flow and find its way out. Now there's a couple of things that I would do out here too to even up the waterproofing. One, this flange is nailed directly on top of my sheathing. Preferably we'd give it a little bit of a gap to make that water have an even easier path outside of our structure. So putting some horseshoe shims underneath here to pull this window out just a little bit, like a 1/16 will give the water an easy way out. Still, this is great, way more than what you see most people doing, especially on a spec home like this, but there's a few details that we could do to even up the durability of the structure. This is a flashing of a penetration here for the doorbell and down there for electrical. Now, they're using a polymer cap to seal the penetration of their WRB, and they could have just put this plastic piece of film on there and punched their wire through and called it good, but they didn't. They went ahead and flashed it. They put a piece of flashing over the top and down the sides that allows the water, any water that gets back behind this cladding is able to come down the face of the WRB and then is pushed out from the hole that they've cut for this wire. If they didn't do this flashing, it's possible for the water to come down and then with capillary action get sucked back into the structure. So this flashing kicks the water out. Now the material cost for this tape isn't a cost driver for this building. I mean, we're only using a few feet around the entire house. It doesn't cost that much, but it pays huge dividends from a durability standpoint. Not only durability, but also comfort and efficiency. Anytime you cut a hole in your wall, you're inviting a lot, in this climate, you're inviting a lot of hot, humid air inside your house. Now that can lead to mold growth inside the wall if it's really bad, but at a minimum, you're going to have to cool and dry that air as it's infiltrating into your structure. So it's much better to keep that air outside and be bringing in fresh air on your terms and dehumidifying it and cooling it on your terms instead of just letting air leak in all through the house. And upstairs you can see another product that was upgraded that most homeowners aren't going to know about. This is the LP Tech Shield Radiant Barrier, and it's an aluminum faced roofing product that will reject some of the sun's solar rays from heating your house through radiation. It's able to reflect those back out into the atmosphere. Nobody's going to see that, right? Once they get all the sheetrock up, nobody's going to be crawling into the attic saying, "Huh, I wonder what kind of roof decking you use there," right? But they do it because they care about making more efficient, more durable buildings. And a couple of other things that I like about this home. All of the plumbing hot water feed lines are insulated, so they've put this black foam around the hot water lines to make sure that you don't lose temperature between your hot water heater. See, y'all are going to call me out about that. I don't know, it's a Texas thing. Not a hot water heater. I don't want a ton of comments about that. Between your water heater that makes hot water, you don't lose temperature between your water heater and your appliance. You're able to save energy that way because you're not heating up all the cavity while you're feeding water to your appliance. So I like their plumbing. I love the sheathing. I love the bracing. I love the notes. There's a note on the front door that says, "Such and such cabinet makers were here on this date and took measurements for this house. If there's a change, call this number," right? So the communication is not left up in the air somewhere, and these details don't necessarily add to the overall cost. This house is selling for the same square foot price as the house that I toured a couple of weeks ago that was terrible. Now, here is what I think is the difference. There's some home builders who are looking at making a good, long-lasting, durable home for their customer. And when they think about their customer and they say, you know, sheathing this whole house is going to cost $2,500. If you're paying $250,000 for the house and you're a homeowner and somebody tells you for 1% more, we can drastically improve your durability, your structural rigidity, and your comfort and efficiency of this home. Are you interested? Most homeowners would say, yeah, no, that sounds like a good use of money. But if you're a large production builder and you're building, let's say, 1,000 homes a year, if you just eliminate this one detail, if you just take the sheathing off of that, I can save you $2,500 per home, and that will make $2.5 million in bottom line profit at the end of the year. It's completely different math. $2,500 a home for the homeowner? Yeah, that sounds like a pretty good deal. $2.5 million to a spec home builder in profit by doing something that nobody is ever going to know about? It's tempting. It really is tempting. So just be aware that there are two different motivations: the homeowners and builders who are building for homeowners, and the builders who are building for their bottom line primarily. So Not judging anybody here, not getting on a high horse. I know that there's all types of people and there's all types of builders and there's all types of grades of home. But if you're a homeowner, try to find guys like this house here who's doing the details right, who care about building a more durable product, and try to avoid those other builders who are trying to cut every corner they possibly can just to add more money to their bottom line. Thanks so much for watching. Subscribe below if we've earned it. Comment below. Tons of comments on the last video about this one, so keep them coming. Tell me what you want to see future videos about, and we'll see you next time on Jordan Smith Builds.